Hi, my name is JLewis, and I want to help you explore a reason to worship God in a way that you probably have never thought of before. But first, do you remember in the story of Job when God had to remind him of these fearful beasts, Leviathan and Behemoth, and say to Job, "Can you create something like this?" It was a moment when Job had to be reminded of his humble humanity in comparison to how great God was. Well, we may not have a Leviathan to put the fear of God and mankind today, but we do have something equally frightful. It's this little guy right here, the coronavirus. I want to suggest to you that this incredibly tiny virus can be just as powerful a reminder of the greatness of our Creator God as those beasts were for Job. Now, if you're like me, the only thing you knew about viruses is that they were nasty little things that cause colds, flu, and a bunch of other horrible diseases. I certainly didn't know that they are the most abundant biological entity on our planet, or that there are more than 1 million different kinds, of which less than 1%, only about 5,000, have ever been studied and classified. Frankly, scientists are still undecided exactly what viruses are. Some say they're living organisms, while others just call them a biological agent. What we do know is that they differ significantly from a normal living cell. First, they're much, much smaller, about 100 times smaller than a one-cell bacteria and 1,000 times smaller than a red blood cell. And then they reproduce very differently. Instead of multiplying by division like cells do, a virus is like a parasite, and it has to hijack another cell, forcing it to make copies of itself. It works like this. After entering a host cell, the virus lets out its DNA strands along with a powerful enzyme that forces the cell's nucleus to stop making its own DNA and start replicating the virus's DNA. Those new strands then recombine into new virus particles, sometimes thousands of them, and they finally burst out of the cell to go reproduce again somewhere else. One of the most amazing things about viruses is that each type can only attack one specific kind of cell. God has designed them with these special protein spikes that are actually like keys that match up to receptor locks on the surface of only one kind of cell. And when the virus inserts its key into the lock, it tricks the cell to open a door in its membrane and let the virus in. That's why we can associate each type of virus with one particular kind of disease, like colds and flu, or measles and polio, and then some of the really horrible ones like HIV and, of course, the coronavirus. By now, you're probably asking the question, if viruses cause all these horrible diseases, why in the world would God want them in the first place? But to answer that question, we have to remember these bad type viruses, which get most of our attention, are only a tiny fraction of the 1 million different kinds in our world. The vast majority of them are absolutely essential for maintaining the fragile balance that sustains life on our planet. For example, did you know that our oceans are full of viruses? They say that just a teaspoon of seawater can have up to 10 million of them. They look a little different, and they're called a bacteriophage. Looks like a sci-fi monster, doesn't it? But we can actually consider them friendly because every day they kill off 20% of the tiny one-celled organisms in the oceans, like plankton and algae. If they didn't do that, those algae organisms would multiply out of control, and our oceans would soon be clogged and look like thick green soup. Another type of these friendly bacteriophage viruses are very common in our own human digestive tract. In fact, you and I actually have millions of them in our intestines right now. What are they doing there? Well, they're like little biological commandos seeking out and destroying harmful bacteria that gets into our system, like E. coli and other nasty critters. So without those friendly viruses helping our immune system, we would probably be sick most of the time. It says in Psalm 139 that mankind is fearfully and wonderfully made, with intentional design by a creator God. Without doubt, the coronavirus is also a fearful thing, especially as we see its powerful effect on this global pandemic. But isn't it also amazing and maybe a bit wonderful too that that same creator God has intentionally designed viruses to have such an important role in his world? I don't know about you, but just as Job had to do with a beast like Leviathan, I think we have plenty reason to look at the coronavirus today and also acknowledge how great our Creator is, and then to worship Him as our Lord and Master.